Minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission.
State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve our community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates.
If you wish to address the Planning Commission this evening, please come forward at the appropriate time to the lectern when recognized and clearly print your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt the meeting, please either switch it to the silent mode or turn it off. At this time, I'll ask our Planning Commission Recording Secretary, Kathy Zarnicki, to conduct the roll call.
Mr. Buechner?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Malalahali?
Here.
Ms. Parakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Next is the approval of tonight's agenda. Would someone like to offer a motion to either approve the agenda or amend it? Mr. Fox moves it. Mr. Buechner seconds it. Any discussion on the agenda? We're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malalahali?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, item 3, approval of the minutes from the October 24th meeting. Would someone like to offer a motion to approve those minutes or to make an amendment? Anyone? Oh, we'll reverse the order this time. Mr. Buechner moves and Mr. Fox seconds it. So any discussion on the approval of the minutes? Seeing none, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Abstain.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malalahali?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone that would like to address the Planning Commission for an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one moving to the lectern, then we will move on to item 5, which is a special use approval and preliminary site plan review for a proposed Clean Express car wash on the west side of John R., north of 14 Mile, PIN 88-20-35-401-001, which is in Section 35, zoned GB General Business District. Mr. Carlisle, you have the honors tonight.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission. The applicant tonight is proposed car wash. The car wash is located in the outlot of the Oakland Mall in front of the At Home store. It's adjacent to John R. The site is Zone GB General Business, and this is a special use. The site plan is proposed as a 3,600 square foot car wash with 28 vacuum stations. We note the parking complies and the building meets all the setback requirements. The Planning Commission last reviewed this application at their September 26th meeting. The item was postponed to allow OHM to review the traffic study and circulation plan. In addition, since the meeting, the applicant has made the following changes as requested by both our review as well as the engineering review. First, they did provide an 8-foot sidewalk along John R. Road. It's located in this general location, all on the adjacent to their property. They relocated the dumpster, which was originally located in this location, and they relocated to the south end of the site. They provide a sidewalk on the north side of the lot to and from John R., so there's a direct connection to the John R. sidewalk, and they added one internal pedestrian landscape island into the parking lot itself. We note that internally the site is curbed to separate the use from the general mall parking and circulation. Again, OHM reviewed the traffic study that was submitted after the Planning Commission meeting. OHM did review it and does recommend approval of the site impact assessment and the site plan. We note that the OHM, the city engineer, and the city fire marshal all reviewed the plan and site circulation and do not raise any objections. This is a special use, so there are the 7 standards the Planning Commission should consider as part of the special use, as well as a site plan and the 3 standards that the Planning Commission should consider for the site plan. The Planning Commission is asked to consider if the plan meets the special use in the site plan standards. If the Planning Commission does approve the special use and site plan, we recommend the following items be addressed by the applicant. 1, add 1 additional parking lot tree to the parking lot side of the western parking area, and add 1 tree along the eastern parking lot area, and 2, stamp the plan by a licensed landscape architect. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Carlisle? Seeing none, since we dealt with this issue before, probably most of the questions have been asked already, so we'll invite the petitioner to come forward and answer any questions or addressing the items that have not been covered yet, so.
Yeah, I mean, we talked in pretty good length about this last time. I think he covered every significant change we made, so if you have any questions for me, fire away.
Any questions for the applicant? Go ahead. Oh, Mr. Krant.
I'm just going to ask, are you going to add the 2 trees that was mentioned in this report?
Yes, those will be added. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Your question too?
That was my question.
Okay.
And there was one other thing, right? The 2 trees.
And the stamp on
Stamped
the-
large
Okay,
landscape plan.
got it.
Yep.
You'll do it. Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then, go ahead and have a seat. And this is not a public hearing, but if there's anyone from the public that would like to address the commission on this issue, they could come forward at this time, and no one's coming forward. So we will bring it back to the commission for either a resolution or questions. Mr. Fox.
Well, so in the little bit of time since the September meeting, I've gone through and I've reread everything in regards to the master plan for this specific location. Specifically, if my fellow commissioners go to the second PDF provided, page 59 of the PDF talks about the John R. Road section. And I just think approving an auto-centric use here like runs antithesis to everything that we set aside in the master plan for this area. Like, I highlighted 2 specific sections. Under the design concept for the area is meant to be a mix of retail, office, and higher density uses in multi-story buildings in an urban village. I don't think there's any world that an auto-centric use fits that description. Like, at the end of the day, a car wash is just going to bring drivers, it is going to centralize driving and focus on driving. There's another point, this area, mass transit stops should be accommodated. Again, encouraging single-use cars, that runs antithesis to encouraging mass transit. So it's just one of those, I can't in good conscience approve this because there's no world that it is compatible with our master plan for the area. That is where I'm at.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Anyone wish to offer a motion of one way? Yes, Mr. Fox.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request. Motion, do I have to go through the whole deal and then just say
Probably
be
for a
denied?
motion to deny, yeah.
Sure. Resolved that special use approval and preliminary site plan approval for the proposed Clean Express Car Wash west side of John R. north of 14 Mile PIN 88-20-35-401-001, Section 35, currently zoned GB General Business District, be denied.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
Right. It's been moved and seconded to deny. Mr. Savinant, or Ms. Dufresne?
You need reasons.
Pardon?
You need to have
Oh,
reasons.
Okay. Can you
Yeah.
provide the reasons? Okay.
Reasons provided would be inconsistency with the master plan,
Okay. All right.
which is Section 2 of the special use approval standard.
Okay.
It's standard 2.
All right. Is that sufficient, Ms. Dufresne?
Certainly.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Beekner.
Ms. Parakis, can I ask you your thoughts, please?
Yeah, when it first came in front of me, I was unsure as well, and I asked the applicant at the time how they saw it fit with their future plan, and I really enjoyed hearing the vision for that area. And I took away that this was sort of seen as something temporary that could, that would be there for the time being and be a source of income, and that it fit. And frankly, I think it's a great car wash. It looks great. I don't really have too many issues with it, but I wasn't entirely sold on the fact that it wouldn't be incompatible with a future use, and I was worried that it might impede what they decide to do with that location in the future. So I was unsure about it. I was going back and forth, but based on the fact that I do think it's inconsistent with the master plan, I think it's a good enough reason for me to deny it.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Buechner.
We had the last meeting a month or two ago. As I was walking out, the owner was there and people were chatting. I was just listening to what he had to say. And he has high hopes and big plans for that space, the big space. I liked what he had to say. I think I'm allowed to say this. Julie can look at me funny if she wants to. She's done that before. But he has bigger plans for the bigger space, and this is one step for what he was talking about. So I'm leaning positively.
Okay. Any other? Yes, Ms. Malala.
I would concur with what just now our fellow commissioners said. The land, the area that we are looking into where this car wash is being proposed, I do not anticipate much happening in that area. The goals that when we had our last meeting on September 26th and the ideas that were coming out from the person who was heavily involved in this project seemed like he has a vision for that larger chunk of land. And if that larger chunk of land and the vision comes through, we are potentially going to be seeing a lot of people come through, which means this is going to get good use as well and is going to be a great utilitarian resource for the residents and for the people who are visiting that area. I am not opposed to this project because of the area that I am looking into and seeing what can come in that area, what can be created. This seems, for me, not a bad fit.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Crane?
Just a quick comment. That corner of the mall space is rather a dead space. There's very little, it's a narrow strip. It probably couldn't be utilized for anything of the grand vision that the owner has. So, and on top of that, we do have automotive stores. We've got a dealership across the street, directly across the street, and we've got a Four Seasons Auto Repair directly across the street. I don't see this as amplifying what we already have in a detrimental way. So I'd be in favor of this.
You mean you're opposed to the resolution?
Opposed to the
Okay,
resolution,
all right, okay,
absolutely.
clarifying. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Fox?
No, and I want to say I understand, I appreciate the feedback from my fellow commissioners. Again, where I just get caught up on it is looking at the vision of the area through the master plan that I know a couple of you guys have worked on, and we're in the process of trying to get a new draft of it that still includes this description for South John R. Road approved once again. I just don't see this being compatible with the overall vision for the area, is really what it is. And I know the area doesn't look like what's described now, but at the end of the day, the point of a plan is to give like a focus or a guide. And to me, if we just kind of jump on the first thing that can get built there, like, oh, we can see some investment, some reinvestment in this area, then there's really no point to the plan. Like, the plan has a vision, it has a goal, and I think we shouldn't necessarily give up on it just because an area hasn't seen investment for a while.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Parakis.
And just to add to that, I completely agree with you on everything you said, but also, there is a opportunity for mixed use in that area where people might be living. And so to me, then a car wash is very incompatible with that. So if it does get built up into something more mixed use and becomes that type of an area, maybe it would start turning over the things across the street, and it would start building up things that fit that new purpose, which is envisioned in the master plan.
Any further? Yes, Mr. Buechner?
And I asked him that question, and he said the mixed use was on the northern western corner, far away from that. So just a detail. and I'm sorry I do this a lot, guys. Ms. Dufresne, do you have anything you want to add to us?
I have a lot to say, actually. I have literally just defended a lawsuit where my argument was that the master plan is a guide and the zoning is the law. The zoning allows this car wash to be built. So I am shocked right now that we want to rely solely on the master plan, which, I mean, you are literally taking the complete opposite position that I just took in the Tollbrook matters where I successfully defended. So you asked me if this resolution was sufficient. It's a sufficient resolution, but it's indefensible.
Thank you. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? If not, we're ready for the roll call. And
Can I ask one? I'm sorry. Can I ask another question? So we're voting to deny it.
Correct.
If we vote, those of us that vote against that, and if it goes the other way, we can make another motion?
You are voting in favor of denying, you vote yes. If you're opposed to denying, you vote no. Yes, Mr. Fox.
I guess based on the advisement from Ms. Dufresne and the fact that I'm not necessarily interested in creating potential legal liabilities for the city, I actually would like to withdraw my motion to deny based on that feedback from staff. So.
All right. Ms. Parakis, are you willing to withdraw your second?
Yes, of course.
Okay, all right. So I guess it goes back to now, technically we've violated Robert's rules, but we won't worry about that too much here.
I'd rather violate Robert's rules than...
So now, would someone like to make a resolution to approve? Yes, Ms. Mulholland.
I'd like to make that resolution, yeah. Resolution PC 2023-11, resolved that special use approval and preliminary site plan approval for the proposed Clean Express Car Wash, west side of John R., north of 14 Mile, PIN 88-20-35-401-001, Section 35, currently zoned GB, General Business District, be granted subject to the following conditions. Add one parking lot tree internal to the parking lot along the western parking area and one tree along the eastern parking lot area. 2, stamp the plan by a licensed landscape architect.
All right, is there a second?
I support.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Faison offered the second. Any discussion on the motion to approve now? I would just offer the comment that, even with multi-use on that property, I think a car wash can still be used by people who may not want to live anywhere else, but it still is an appropriate use of the property, and especially with the efforts being made by the owner to make improvements to Oakland Mall, I think it's a good step in the right direction for there. So, seeing no further discussion, I guess we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Krent.
Yes.
Mr. Lambert.
Yes.
Ms. Malala-Holly.
Yes?
Ms. Parakis.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Biegner.
Yes.
Mr. Faison.
Yes.
Mr. Fox.
Abstain.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the motion's been approved. Congratulations. All right. Item number 6, preliminary site plan review file number SPJPLN 2023-0026, a proposed controlled exit onto Colebrook from parking lot northwest corner of Rochester and Colebrook, 3635 Rochester, which is PIN 88-20-22-276-051 and 052 and 053. Section 22, currently zoned GB General Business and R1C One Family Residential District. Mr. Carline, you have the honors again.
Yes, thank you. I thought I had an aerial photo on this, but apparently not. So a little background. The site is located at the northwest corner of Rochester Road and Colebrook. I do apologize. I think in my memo I had referenced Livernois at one point. It is Rochester Road. The site is outlined in red. It's kind of got a interesting shape to it. The building itself is the yellow building. Currently, the sole access to the site is from Rochester. It's that, this is the current access point. The owner has requested an additional curb cut from the site onto Colebrook. So the proposal is to add an egress-only access point from the site to Colebrook. It would go through the existing parking lot. We note that the use of the site is for religious services, for a place of worship and a community center, and the applicant knows that during busy times, particularly Friday afternoons, it's difficult to exit the site directly onto Livernois. So this would get a secondary... Rochester. Apologize. Directly onto Rochester. So this would be a second point of access from the site to get from Colebrook to Rochester. Again, noting the drive aisle would be one-way only, exiting from the site. The curb cut, we note, aligns with the internal drive in the existing parking lot, and the access to the new curb cut and drive aisle from Colebrook would be blocked by an automatic gate, which is located right adjacent to the existing. There's a wall here, so right adjacent to the existing wall. Cars would be directed by signage to turn left towards Rochester Road. The applicant, we had a major discussion with the applicant about parking, and the applicant knows that there will be no parking lost as a result of the new egress point. OHM has reviewed the proposed curb cut as well as traffic impacts and does approve the curb cut as submitted. This is a site plan, so there are site plan standards the Planning Commission should consider. And so summary, we are asking that the Planning Commission consider if the requested site plan standards have been met. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlisle, any questions for Mr. Carlisle?
I got one.
Mr. Krent.
Is that one induction pad in the right-of-way? In other words, I saw that property line. It looks like it is on the outside of that property line.
I'm sorry, this one right here?
Correct. Is that outside his property?
I'd have to confirm that. I don't believe it is outside the property. I believe it's inside the property, but I'll have to confirm that.
It is. Okay.
All right, any more questions for Mr. Carlisle? Yes, Ms. Malal-Holly.
Just a clarification. I believe I read this correctly, but I just want to clarify. So nobody can go in, they are only going to be exiting, correct?
That's the plan submitted by the applicant. Their indication would be there's a trigger as you come onto the gate from internal the parking lot, it would open and you would exit from Colebrook. There would be no access, or their gate would not open if you turn into Colebrook. Additional signage saying one way only or no enter would be helpful. Be placed adjacent to the access point, just to reiterate the point that this is exit only.
Great. Any other questions? If not, we'll bring up the petitioner. Excuse me for my voice being sore, but you can come forward and answer any questions the members of the commission might have. Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Nurul Amin. I am the one who designed this site, and we are facing the problem of exiting from the parking lot to the Rochester Road, and people have to wait for a long time. And because we have two worship, one at 1:45, another at 2:30, and the people of 2:30 p.m., they cannot enter into the parking lot until these people are getting out of the parking lot. So, and also during emergency, we need to get out of this parking lot in any case. And also there is another problem is that if we cannot get out of the parking lot, the people, students, teachers, physicians who used to come for worshiping for a short period of time, and they are always complaining to us that we cannot get out of the parking lot. So this is a very important exit for us, for our community. And we thank you, all of you, and Mr. Brandt and everybody who gave this permission before to get the facility to work as a community center.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Buechner.
There are residents to your west. I don't know if they're here, or have you reached out to them to see if they're in agreement with it?
We talk to all of the community, and they don't have any objection. We keep the site neat and clean, and we are not For almost 1 year, we are there now. We don't have any objection from any of our neighbors.
And I think I heard that signage will say that you can't turn on Colebrook, go towards residential, am I right?
Yeah, we will go only towards the Rochester Road.
Will there be a curb so that you can't make
Yeah.
that turn?
Yeah.
If I lived there, and there might be some people here, but if I lived in one of those, I wouldn't want cars
Yeah,
going
there will
through.
be also sign as well as the curb.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can you please ask the speaker to sign in?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Can you sign in on that sheet right there?
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Parakis?
Yeah, I have a question. What would happen if someone turned into the gate? Would the gate go up?
It means back.
Off of Colebrook,
Back, because it cannot open. There are indication also, parking lot, we have signs, is only for exit only. And the people will be, we will inform the people that no one can enter from this gate.
Okay, and then in one of your, in the traffic impact study that was provided, it said that as a mitigation measure, that they would allow less than 10% of the traffic from the parking lot, 10 to 12 cars. I was a little bit confused. I mean, is the idea that the parking lot holds 145 cars, so is it correct that when that first prayer ends, there's going to be 145 cars coming out onto Colebrook to turn out onto Rochester Road?
No, if we create about, I said in the second prayer, we have about 45 to 60 people. If these people can get out, then the other people can enter into the parking lot.
So how are the first people, the first session is full, so I imagine there's 145 cars.
Yeah, if you can exit, allow exit about 14, 16 cars, the other people will start coming into the parking lot. Otherwise, they have to wait. It's difficult to enter into the parking lot.
Okay. When I went over there, I saw that the parking spots go all the way to the wall. And so it's not really, the circulation, the only people who can get out are, there's those cars parked there, and they're going to be trying to get out, but there's going to be a line of cars sort of blocking them from getting out. So I'm having a hard time understanding the circulation and how it's going to work.
We have about 30 feet gap between the two cars. So there is a possibility that they can come and easily get out of the parking lot. We will also train the people who comes into this area.
And how will you limit only 10 or so cars, 10 to 15 cars from
It is an
exiting?
assumption, but it may be more than that. But we assume that if 20 people or 10 cars get out of the parking lot, then the people who are waiting on Rochester Road can enter into the parking lot for their prayers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise they have to move around, cannot enter into the parking lot. That is the difficulty.
Right, okay. I'm just trying to think about the traffic that's going to develop on Colebrook Road and how it's going to impact them, because that's a lot of cars coming out at one time.
Well, we counted the number of traffic in the Colebrook. It's about maximum 10 cars per hour. It's not a very heavy traffic there. And it is the time when there is no called the maximum car, is not the peak hour, is the normal hour, is not a school holiday or anything else.
How many cars can stack up from Rochester Road back to that new proposed exit onto Colebrook?
It is about 65 feet from the Rochester Road to the exit. If you consider 14 feet a car, about 4 or 5 cars maximum.
Right. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Kren.
Have you looked into spacing the different services, maybe put a gap of a half hour between the people leaving and the new people coming in?
We have that already. We put that, there is a gap between the first worshiping and the second worship, about half an hour. During that period, people cannot get out of the parking lot.
For half an hour?
Yeah.
Can you
Because of the Rochester Road, sometimes.
It is busy, I understand. Have you considered maybe extending it to 1 hour then?
Because then the prayer time is limited on the Fridays. That time exceeded, people cannot pray anymore. We have a limited time in worshiping.
All right. Any other questions for the petitioner? Yeah, Mr. Tagle.
Thank you. I agree with Ms. Parakis. I'm not quite understanding the internal circulation within the site. I look at the drawing that's up on the screen, and you see where where it has the letters LP, and there's a circle underneath it, and then there's, right in that area. I don't know if those are supposed to be parking spaces or if that's supposed to be a drive. But
No, all these are parking spaces, and in between the parking spaces, the LP is the line.
I know what the LP is, but what I'm getting at is if those are parking spaces, the space where the word bollard is would be backing out right into the traffic that's trying to get out. I mean, so they're stacking, they're right at the gate. The other car, or the other space to the west of that, would not be able to get out if the first car wasn't moved. I guess what I'm suggesting, would you consider putting a landscape island in those spots right there where the word bollard is and where the letters LP are and where the letters and numbers on an angle are? So between the wall and the first set of lines that you have there.
We can, but the thing is, the bollard is in line with the boundary wall. It's not.
I'm not saying touch that at all.
Okay.
Nothing at all. It would be north of the wall. That first space would be landscape buffer so that the cars would get away from the wall some distance. And then the center lane on the east side of the drive would be able to back out and not be driving over the wire to activate the gate. The other car would have to go around and come out that way. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean,
people will be accustomed with whoever near to the gate, they will exit first.
Well, maybe not.
We'll announce. We are doing.
I understand that, but people are people.
Yeah.
People are people.
We don't like to lose any.
People's
if
actions.
we put any.
Well, I guess my question: would you be willing to put a landscape island there adjacent to the wall?
We can study that, but our people, they understand the problem, and they will be thankful if we can exit the first car and the second car. We will announce that to the people.
Okay, so does that mean no? You do not want to put a landscape island there? I'm trying to.
At that time, we will lose a parking space, 2 parking spaces.
Right. I mean, they're not ideal parking spaces anyways, where they're located up against the wall.
We can add, if you like that, we can add a transition there.
Landscape area.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Buechner.
Can I ask Ben to pull up page 37? I like what Mr. Tagle's saying, and again, I don't want to get into changing what you've done. I'm just, I guess, part of us to give you guys advice. I would get rid of those 4 spaces that Mr. Tagle was just talking about, and you can add more when we get to page 37 in the middle. That's the one. You can blow that up, please. So that one right there, Brent, where the hand is, can you go up and to the left?
Want me to zoom?
No, just right, leave it right where it is. Now go to your left, right there. You could add spaces right there, right, Brent? You need, I think, 46 feet of space from the back parking to that.
No.
You've got probably close to 100 feet there.
Yeah, because there is a fire hydrant there.
I'm sorry?
There is a fire hydrant. We cannot go.
But just not shown on it?
Yeah,
Where's the fire hydrant?
between these two parking.
Oh, is there an island there?
Yeah, there is an aisle there.
Okay.
And Mr. Bigner, the site plan isn't 100% accurate. Parking actually goes all the way to.
That's what I just saw that as parking. I love
Yeah.
parking. I've gone after parking. I was trying to help and I failed, sorry.
Yeah. Any other questions for the petitioner? I just had a brief one. First, I appreciate you trying to put a gate in there to make sure that people are leaving rather than trying to come in. But obviously, as Mr. Tagle said, people are people. Are you planning on putting some kind of a do not enter sign there so that someone,
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna
Yeah.
have,
We work with the OHM and we put all the signs there.
okay, all right, good. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Clint?
And also, in addition to a sign, it would be good to have pavement markings, an arrow, and also to angle that radius, instead of having it radius toward Colebrook residents, have the two radiuses of those curbs angled toward Rochester Road.
Okay,
Because, again, they're not going to jump curbs normally if they,
yeah, okay.
All right. Any other questions from the members of the commission? All right, seeing none, you can have a seat, and we'll take an opportunity for any member of the public that would like to address the commission. It's not a public hearing, but if anyone would like to address the commission on this issue, you're welcome to come forward at this time. No one's rushing to the front.
Add something to it.
Yeah, come on up, and be sure to sign in.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mohammed Saeed, 21 years resident, Troy resident, and part of this project here. Ms. Mariana Perkis, I had a question, how is gonna interact with the current traffic? So this is an emergency exit route, kind of. At this time, we are using the main Rochester entry and exit. We are not hindering any traffic. There is no backup. We are managing it whatever possible way. I'm also working with the City of Troy Police Department. Officer Greg Pokley, and we are also studying the security of the entire building, including exit and entry routes. So he is in line with us to have an emergency exit gate. As Dr. Amin said, that it will be only emergency exit or at the time of extensive prayer, congregation exit only. It's not going to be open all the time, but it's only just part-time basis, and it's only one way out. There's no one entry in there. The gate will be operate only from inside out, not from outside in. So that's just, I wanted to add this one. Yeah.
Great.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to sign in on the sheet there, too. Ms. Zarnecki appreciates that, so.
Can I ask a question to the gentleman?
Yeah,
Or-
go ahead.
So, sir, can I ask you maybe two questions?
Yes,
What's
sir.
your role? What is your role? You said you're working with the city.
One of
and
the owner
police
of the building and community member.
Okay. And then the second question was, you said the exit was only going to be used at certain times.
Correct.
Is that right? How do you control that?
Okay, so when we have congregation, gentleman said that it's around mostly, it will be used on Fridays.
Right.
And there's two occasions in the year, we call Eid. Okay, so when the congregation, at this time we are using entry and exit the same Rochester Road, but when we have this emergency exit open for service, so the traffic will be reduced to exit to the Rochester Road on the side. So there, go ahead.
My question is, you say, okay, when that second exit is open, how do you open and close that exit, or can someone use that exit whenever they choose?
During
if they're
Friday,
in the parking lot?
okay, during Friday congregation, the switch will be on, electrical switch will be on, and it will be open, and we'll announce that, and only from 2 to 3, 1 hour.
I understand now. So there's specific periods of time where that exit will be operable.
Yes.
Other times it won't.
Other will be shut, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the commission? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll bring it back to the commission for questions or resolution. Yes, Mr. Fox.
I guess I want to make a motion to approve. I mean, to me, this looks pretty open and shut. OHM has given it a thumbs up, and I think, really, I don't even know where else they could even put a driveway out. I mean, it's a very interestingly shaped parking lot. So, I'd like to formally make a motion, resolved that preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for the proposed controlled exit onto Colebrook from parking lot northwest corner of Rochester and Colebrook, 3635 Rochester, PIN 88-20-22-276-051-052 and -053, Section 22, currently zoned GB and General Business and R1C District be granted.
All right. Before I get a second.
I want to make some, I'm going to talk to you about the possible additions to that resolution.
Sure.
I think since the owner agreed to the landscaping feature, taking out 2 parking places, I think that should be included in the resolution. I think the point I made about angling the curb to only go in the direction toward Rochester Road, not toward the subdivision, should be included. Also, that there should be signage indicating that you cannot enter from that street. And there's one other I was thinking of. It will only be operated between 2 to 3 in the afternoon on Fridays.
Mr. Sabanen.
What about, just to clarify as a condition that it's exit only?
Yes, and it's exit only, yes.
And just to clarify, so what you're talking about, Mr. Kren, if you look up here, is you talked about the geometry. So if you notice, it's not just straight. Here, this one's kind of straight, but this one's kind of more exaggerated, and it forces or strongly suggests to the person that they want to go this way.
Correct.
So I think what I heard you suggest earlier is maybe this also be exaggerated. So it very, very clearly, in addition to the signage saying left-hand turn only, it also steers you in this direction. It steers your brain in that direction.
Right. It could be the same radius as the one closer to Rochester Road, but just copied and pasted over.
15-degree radius, but that is very...
I couldn't hear you.
You need to come up to the microphone so we can hear what you're...
One towards the Rochester Road has a 15-degree radius. The other one is very sharp, but is exaggerated.
I can see that that's what it is, but I would prefer having both radiuses.
I agree.
Go toward Rochester Road.
At that time, we talked to the OHM consultant. They want like this, and it also written, our sign is only for entry, no entry. Only for exit is written on the sign.
Well,
both sides, it can be seen that only for entry only.
Yeah, I understand that,
only.
but when they do exit, I want to make sure they go in the direction of Rochester Road, not go into the subdivision.
Yeah,
that's why I'm suggesting that other curb to be radiused toward Rochester Road.
Yeah, and I'm not a civil engineer, so maybe this is going to be contingent on engineering approval.
Yes.
There may be an engineering reason why they can't do this.
I understand.
So,
yeah.
Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I appreciate the added amendments from Mr. Krent. I'm absolutely willing to accept the exit only and then the signage, because it sounds like the applicant's willing to do that anyway. With the parking, I wanted to check with city staff. Is that going to put them in violation of any parking requirement ordinances if they cut 2 spaces?
Frankly, we don't know. Because
Okay.
one of the items I did note to the applicant during my review is if they're removing parking spaces, it would require us to do a parking assessment to ensure that parking is compliant or at least not worse than the current situation at the site. So we don't know with loss of parking what the impacts on parking is going to be.
Okay. Well then, at this point, in regards to the motion I originally made, I think the two that I would just accept without any discussion would be the exit-only requirement and the signage requirement. So I'm absolutely fine to tack those on. As for, I don't necessarily know if we want to limit it to very specific dates and times during the week, solely because, as the applicant mentioned, there's Eid and other holidays, kind of like there's other reasons that the center would be filled. So I don't necessarily want to deny them the flexibility to be able to use it when they're exiting a large number of people on a day that isn't Friday between 2 and 3. So I wouldn't want to add that in at the moment. And I can't remember what your fifth.
It was the angling of the curbs.
The angling, I mean, the angling can work. I think, again, it's more of an engineering thing, but I'd be willing to accept the angling pursuant to approval from the Office of Engineering.
Okay.
Okay, so which ones have you agreed to? Okay, so it's the do not enter sign, the angling of the exit pursuant to engineering approval, and what was the third one?
Exit only.
The exit only.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
That is the three.
So, yes, Mr. Tagle.
Well, I'm curious why the landscape buffer can't be contingent or approved through final site plan approval. If they can do the calculations, which they should have provided anyway, since this is site plan approval, to provide the calculations for the parking and prove that the 2 cars won't hurt them, or if it does, then they get to keep their 2 cars, 2 spaces. Because I think it's a very, very difficult turning geometry for automobiles at those last 2 spots against that wall.
I see that. I think, would a way to word that potentially be pursuant to the fact that removing spaces would not put them in violation of other city ordinances, if that makes sense? Like, as long as removing it doesn't violate any current requirements?
Well, I think more broadly, I think we want to see, we want them to provide parking calculations to show are they in compliance or not compliance, and it'll be up in the final site plan approval process to make that determination.
Okay. Do you have a suggested way that you would word that?
The petitioner should provide parking calculations to
the
confirm
city
that they are
staff.
in compliance with the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So when that comes in, staff will look at it and say, they need 140, they've got 145. So
Okay.
they'd be fine by losing 2. Or if they become short, then they're going to be able to say, nope, they can't lose the 2. So the burden, if there is one, is on staff at the final site plan.
Okay. Yeah, I'd
Is that
accept
okay with
Yeah,
you?
I'd accept that as suggested by
Okay.
Mr. Tagle.
All right. All right. First, is there any more additional requirements we want to add to the resolution? Did you have any, Ms. Mulally?
Nothing to add, just to add to what Mr. Fox just said. I would not like it to be limited to a particular day and a particular time. This is a religious establishment, and gatherings of such nature in a community location is bound to happen, so we shouldn't be putting any kind of restrictions.
All right, so you're fine with everything that we've discussed, hopefully
Except for
the time, so. And the parking study is going to be done in conjunction with adding some kind of landscaping islands in there to help
yes.
funnel traffic out correctly, so. All right, is there a second to that motion? Mr. Beekner seconds it. Any discussion on the motion as made and amended and seconded?
No, I guess I appreciate the feedback from my fellow planning commissioners on how to get that working well, so thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I guess we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yes?
Ms. Parakis?
Abstain.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Beekner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Oh, there it is.
All right, next on the agenda is draft master plan. Mr. Carlisle, do you have the honors again? Or is this Mr. Savinen's show? Mr. Carlisle, you've been nominated.
Thank you. So, just 1 second to get to the section. So, as the Planning Commission is well aware, there is very specific state requirements for the amendment and adoption to a master plan. Earlier this year, the Planning Commission, through the work of the steering committee, spent a lot of time putting together the draft master plan and made a recommendation to the City Council to have the draft master plan released for the public review period, noting that there may be changes by both the City Council, the Planning Commission, and the public, or comments on the plan between now and that period. The draft master plan went out in August, and the 63-day review period just recently ended. In that 63-day period, we received a full review of the plan by the Oakland County Zoning Coordinating Committee, the Shelby Township Planning Commission. There were public comments that were received from a kiosk at the community center, as well as emails from 6 Troy residents. And all the comments were included in your packet. The comments from the residents included a discussion of a lack of affordable housing and housing diversity in Troy, overdevelopment, congestion, and traffic, specific bicycle, pedestrian, and trail expansion, additional greening to Troy, and comments on repurposing the Kmart headquarters and repurposing existing sites and buildings to viable residential uses. There was nothing that we hadn't heard before as part of the process to get to this point that was heard in the 6 comments from the residents, though they were insightful and very constructive as part of the review of the plan. And those 6 comments were included in your packet for review. As part of the county's process, the Zoning Oversight Committee reviewed the plan, and their job is basically to look at the boundaries of Troy and say, does the current master or the proposed master plan, is it inconsistent or conflicting with adjacent communities to Troy, as well as the larger goals of Oakland County? And in their infinite wisdom is how they put it, they found the plan to be not inconsistent with the surrounding communities. So that's the way they say it. I've seen a lot of communities the way they say it. It's very awkward, but that's the way they say it. So it's not inconsistent. However, they did have some recommendations that they want us to consider moving forward. First is update the census information. There's a few areas where there was not updated to the current census. Update the latest SMART and Oakland County transit information. Add a Michigan Natural Features inventory into the master plan. Update the name to MDEQ. It was a previous reiteration name in the previous draft. Incorporate a hazard mitigation plan, as well as utilize Oakland County's tools in housing development division's varied tools for diversifying a community housing stock. There was no specific recommendations about that. It's just utilize those tools from the county. Those were the comments received by Oakland County and the public. The changes by Oakland County are pretty standard. A lot of those are comments that they have for every master plan because these are goals that the county is trying to push. But there were some specific changes with regards to census information and SMART transit information as well. Mr. Chairman, with that being said, as I noted, the Planning Commission has received all the copies that were submitted as part of the 63-day review period. We would like direction from the Commission on the next step moving this forward. We have the option to schedule a public hearing for the master plan at the December meeting. We can make these changes directed by the Oakland County and some of the public changes between now and that public hearing draft. If the Planning Commission doesn't feel comfortable with that, we can certainly make these changes, bring it back to you at a future meeting, and then you can schedule a public hearing draft. But again, our goal again was to keep moving this forward and hopefully get this to the City Council for their adoption period. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my formal presentation, which is not much, but really just looking for direction from the Commission.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Malal Holly.
I just need some information. What does Add Michigan National Features Inventory Information mean?
So the state of Michigan has a natural features inventory, which assesses wetlands and other natural features, and so they would like to incorporate that data from that into the specific the master plan.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Fox?
Well, hearing that, I do think that's something that I'd be interested in seeing incorporated into the master plan, just so that we can get an understanding. I know Troy's very developed, but I think it's also consistent with some of the resident comments in terms of wanting to protect green spaces in Troy. I think having that kind of an inventory as like a tool that not only we can reference, but developers can reference would be helpful. I think that would be a worthwhile addition to the master plan. The other item that, well, I'll keep it on that topic before I move it to another topic.
Any other comments from the commission? Yes, Mr. Crane.
I think to keep this thing moving forward, I think any changes that were going to be handled by our planning professionals should take place and move this review process forward to hear it again in December and see how it all fits together. Not slow it down.
Yes, Mr. Faison.
I had a question, but it may be a little bit off point. So I was not at the MAP conference, but Brent, I saw you distribute a document that talked about equity in planning or planning and zoning. And I was just curious if those concepts are included in this master plan, or those concepts being included in community master plans currently, and is that something that should be a consideration for us?
They're not, how do I say this? The concepts aren't copy and pasted from that document and inserted into the master plan, but the master plan speaks to some of those concepts in terms of engagement, in terms of attainable housing options, and that's so in a roundabout way. A lot of those concepts are included, but not as in your face. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but
not as specific.
Not as specific. Yes.
And one of the things that it called out, and I think one of the comments called out that we received, was affordability. So is affordability incorporated in our plan? Because I know that's been a challenge with some of the developments, even some of the smaller homes.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Faison, on the point you brought, the equity issue has been a big push of our national organization, the American Plan Association, and it's come down through the Michigan chapter of that. The good thing is many of the things that they're pushing on the national level have been incorporated in the Troy Master Plan from your update in 2010. So a lot of those ideas were well ahead of the curve on some of those. Now, we've also strengthened them too through the changes that Brent talked about in terms of inclusion, for some affordable housing diversity, including residents as part of the planning process. So we are making changes, but we're well ahead of where most communities were at that point. So I feel pretty comfortable that we've addressed a lot of those equity concerns. And even so Brent and I spend 40 plus hours a week mostly hearing negative comments about most of the work we do. It's just the nature of our job. The county review was actually enlightening because they were so positive about how great a plan this was, how cutting edge it was in a lot of ways, how the members, there's 3 or 5 members that are the general, they're commissioners in the county, but they're from all over the county, and all of them said, I wish we would have incorporated this part into our plan or this part into our plan. So we felt really good after that session that we had put together a plan that Oakland County found very positive and was very supportive of what we're trying to achieve here and wanted to incorporate it into other parts of the county.
Okay, and hopefully I didn't imply that I saw issues in our plan, but maybe to Brent's point, when I quickly read the document he sent, I thought the language was stronger, right, than in the plan. And that goes to your point of maybe it's not as quite as overt in our document as in that document. But thanks for the clarification.
Any other comments? Yeah, Mr. Fox.
One topic that was brought up at the MAP conference that I sat in for a little bit was the idea of the way that zoning can drive up housing costs. Specifically, a couple of the pieces of zoning that are called out are minimum lot requirements and then minimum square footage requirements. and that by setting like certain bars that developers have to jump, you're basically guaranteeing that houses are going to be upwards of, $500,000 or something like that. I don't necessarily know if it fits in the context of a master plan conversation. I know the master plan already has language that implies that we should be taking steps to address housing affordability, so I do think that might just fall under this umbrella. But that is something I'd be interested in seeing, is where all of our different zoning districts fall in comparison to kind of what the best practices are for creating lower cost housing. Because I know we recently had the development that originally came in as a, what's it called?
Cluster.
Yeah, cluster development. And then the moment that the cluster was denied, they ended up coming in with bigger lots that were ultimately going to be more expensive. So I went through that here on our commission, and then I saw a speaker talk about that exact issue at the conference. So I guess to address residents' comments in regards to housing diversity and affordability, that's something that I wouldn't mind if we took a look at. I think it would be beneficial in terms of at least understanding how we can try to make housing more affordable in the city. So again, I don't know if it necessarily sticks right in this master plan conversation, but it's one that I would like to try to address once the master plan's adopted. Okay. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Any other comments from members of the commission? I agree with Mr. Krent. I think we should try to see if we can get this on the agenda for I think it's the December 12th meeting. I was wondering, there were a lot of good comments from the public in there, and some of them are kind of out of our hands because it's either property rights or it's existing ordinances that we can't retroactively change. But it'd be some way to maybe pass on to City Council all those comments so they can see where the public gave their input, and so they can think about those things as they sit down and do strategic planning. So I think that would be useful. But yes, Ms. Parakis.
Yeah, you just reminded me of one thing that seemed to be a recurring theme in many of the comments from residents, and it was in regard to connectivity of the sidewalks throughout the city. So I do believe that we talk about it in the master plan, but if we could make sure that it's in there. They talked about, the north-south, east-west direction, making sure that we're really coordinated so sidewalks don't end suddenly and leave people wondering where to go. I think we have a lot of those that we could fix.
Yep.
When he said, get it on the agenda, so we public hearing. I don't know if they have decided yet.
As much as they try to cover up the microphone, we can still hear you, so that probably doesn't do any good.
So I'll say it a little clearer so you could really hear. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned moving forward with getting it on the agenda in December. Does that mean for a public hearing, or for we make changes, we bring it back for one more look at it?
I was thinking of a public hearing, go ahead and go forward with it, and that gives you time to make edits, and we would see them at that time, so. But I don't know what the majority of the commission is feeling.
I would concur, yeah.
All right, well, then I'll make a formal motion that we have a public hearing on the master plan revisions for the December 12th meeting, incorporating comments from the Oakland County and Ms. Parakis' suggestion about some kind of interconnectivity section in there. Is there a second to that? Mr. Fox seconds it. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready for the roll call.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Chagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, on to public comment for items on the agenda. Would someone like to speak to the commission for items on the agenda?
What are you talking about now? Can I talk about that?
The draft plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can come forward, yeah.
Sorry, I've been breaking leaves all day.
That's okay. Do it while the weather's nice.
All right, let me get this in front of me. First of all, my name is Deborah Lazecki. I am a resident of 40 years and a real estate broker of 34 years. Now, you just approved this to go to public hearing, so this might be totally mute, but I at least want to bring it up, okay? Give me just a minute. There is an email coming out to all of you also, along with this information, and to the City Council. Over the last several weeks, I've had the opportunity to walk 2 precincts for the election, speaking to well over 250 people. Heard a lot of concern about the density allowed at our corner, and again, I'm talking about Troy Corners, Square Lake, and Livernois. Troy being the largest city in Oakland County with a rich history that has started right here at Troy Corners, I believe we have what it takes to add a lot of value to our city by turning this corner into a true neighborhood node, a downtown. Slowing the speed down from each of the schools to this corner would not only give safety to our children, but also give the opportunity for people not to go through the corner, but to turn in the opposite directions of each of the schools. We already have 42 3-story condos, as you know. That's at our one corner. And I'm not going to read all of this. There's a lot of potential also that you know. There's a lot of land that will be developed with large lots that are going to be on the south of Square Lake and on the north side of Square Lake, east of Livernois. You also have a city park there on Square Lake on the south side between the historical homes. You have 3 schools. Smith Middle School has 606 children. Martell has 370. You have an early development center at 560 students and 110 staff. That's a total of 1,636 students, which are all within walking distance of this corner. I'm asking you to become heroes. There's a lot of talent sitting in this room tonight, real estate brokers, engineers, and others that all have a great passion for our city. I'm asking for a second look at this historical corner that is which is on a city-owned street that is very narrow. You have 1 lane going both ways. The road will have to be looked at, I'm sure, at some time especially, but it sure would be nice to preserve our corner by keeping it narrow and slowing down the traffic so that we would have a real walkable neighborhood node. We could preserve our historical homes. I'd like to give Gary more tools and other developers to come in and make it a real walkable, safe downtown neighborhood node. Don't let Troy Corners become a hodgepodge mess. We deserve this, and I want to thank you all for listening.
Okay, thank you.
Would you please sign in, ma'am?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here, my knees are shaking. I'm like, what in the heck's that all
No
about?
reason to be nervous.
And while Deb is signing in, we spoke twice today. Nice to see you tonight.
Nice to see you, sir.
If you email me that, I can put it in the public record so that all your words are considered or seen by Planning Commission at the next meeting, and
I
it'll be
will.
seen by City Council.
Thank you so much.
And since no one else is in the audience, I'm assuming now this is the end of public comment, so we'll turn it back over to the Commission for Public Commission comment. So we'll start with Ms. Zarnecki. Any comment?
I have none. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Fox?
I'm all set.
Okay.
Do we have a meeting in 2 weeks?
Yes.
It's
Yes, 28th.
the Tuesday before Thanksgiving?
Yep. No, after, a week after.
No, it's the week after.
Thanksgiving's a little earlier this year, so.
Yep.
Anything else, Mr. Buechner?
Nope. Thank
Okay. Ms. Malala Holly?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, Brent, I did see a lot of signs in that same intersection, Square Lake and Livernois, no zoning, lots and lots of boards there. What's happening? And of course, nothing has come in or made it into the agenda.
Not yet, but on the 28th of November, in 2 weeks, the planned unit development application for the northeast portion of that corner will be under consideration by the Planning Commission.
I see. That's where I see all those boards around that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fox, did you have something that you forgot to mention?
Yeah, do I have a ZBA meeting next week?
Email me tomorrow.
Mr. Hudson, anything?
Nothing.
Mr. Faison?
Nothing from me.
Ms. Parekas?
Nothing, thanks.
Nothing here. I'm all set.
There you go. Ms. Dufresne?
So we need to talk about abstaining from votes.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure why we had 2 people do that today. The bylaws don't contemplate an abstention vote. The only place in the zoning ordinance that contemplates abstaining is the Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight, it didn't matter because we had, enough people, but I can foresee in the future if we don't, if we have everybody abstain as opposed to voting no, I'm not quite sure how we count a majority. So, yeah, and if you abstain, you need to give a reason. I mean, that's Robert Rules requires a reason for abstaining.
Mr. Grant?
Yeah. So when I abstained, I should say that I was not here at the prior meeting, so
Right, and I've let that go with respect to voting on meeting minutes. You don't have to abstain just because you weren't here. I know that's been traditionally how we've done that. I've sat on other boards, and it's actually discouraged that you abstain even if you weren't at the meeting.
Okay,
But I understand the reason there, but yes, technically we should be stating the reason for that abstention.
Okay, because I thought it was regular practice. We're not there.
You don't have, there's nothing in Robert's rules that says you can't vote on it just
We
because
could
you
still
weren't
vote
there.
yes, even though we weren't here. Okay.
But aren't you voting yes, because I've abstained also for the same reason, aren't you voting that the minutes are accurate?
Right, but you can watch the video, I mean, there are other ways to, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
I understand why
Yeah.
this board has traditionally done that. You don't have to, though, and again, and other boards, it's actually discouraged from doing that, but.
Understood.
Mr. Fox has.
Oh, Mr. Fox?
Yeah, I guess to publicly state my reason for abstaining on the car wash vote. Again, I still truly believe that that isn't necessarily a good use for that site. But at the same time, I also didn't want to necessarily drive the city into potential litigation, so I didn't.
But it's okay to vote no. I mean, it's okay to vote no.
Yeah, I was given a very strong impression that it was not okay to vote no in that instance, and that it would be leading the city
and I
lawsuit.
stand by what I said, that was not a defensible resolution. That doesn't mean you still have an opinion, and it's a valid opinion, regardless with respect to the master plan. So you could still vote no for the project, but the abstention just causes me a little bit of concern. So going forward, if that's something, a practice that the board wants to do, then it needs to be contemplated in your bylaws, which I don't have access to them. I only can see them on my phone, and my eyes are bad, so, but I didn't see anything in there. And then in the zoning ordinance, the only place that mentions abstaining from votes is under the Zoning Board of Appeals. So.
Thank you. Mr. Sabatin?
Speaking of zoning board of appeals, Jackie just texted me and said, yes, you have a zoning board of appeals meeting.
Is there something on the agenda?
There's something on the agenda, yeah, one item. So going back to Mr. Fox's resolution that was rescinded. So you're correct. So it's admirable that you want to move forward the goals of the master plan. Okay, that's admirable. But like Julie said, it's implemented through the zoning ordinance, which is law. So the South John R. district was conceived in 2008, and all property in Troy except right-of-ways has to be zoned something. So at the time, in 2011, when we tried to implement the master plan, we came up with the GB General Business District, and at the time we determined that car washes were to be special uses, and in the GB district, that it was appropriate. When this, and it sounds like the Planning Commission is in favor of the vision for the South John R area. So once we get the policy document adopted, if the Planning Commission wants to consider changes, if you want to create a different zoning ordinance or you want to fine-tune zoning in this area, we can do that. We can do that. If the Planning Commission feels like the GB zoning is not appropriate for the vision, we can tweak the law. We can get there.
Yes, Mr. Faison.
Maybe a question, because I thought one of the special use criteria was compliance with the master plan.
It is.
No? Not compliance with it doesn't say compliance with zoning, it specifically says compliance with the master plan. So that seems to create some conflict if the master plan is different than the zoning. I guess that's a conflict we have to deal with, or do we, okay. It's not going to overlap.
And what I'm suggesting is it sounds like there's some members here that have heartburn over that conflict. So we can look at it, at that underlining zoning, and we can fix it.
But that's not the only place where there's conflict.
Are you suggesting there's more, that our zoning ordinance isn't perfect? How dare you? There could
Not perfectly coordinated with the master.
there could be. There could be.
And just to go along with it a little bit, admittedly, we didn't have the full presentation today of the car wash, so I kind of forgot what was going on. But at the end of the day, I felt that it was a special use, it wasn't a by right, and because of that language, it didn't occur to me that it was a completely indefensible position to take. So that's fine. I turned it around. It's fine. It's not I was going either way anyway, but I didn't think that it was, it's not a by right. It's a special use.
And I think that was the reasoning in 2011 for the appropriateness of GB, because the uses like car washes that are potentially have more secondary impacts are special uses. So every property owner within 300 feet gets notification. There's more involvement, there's more engagement, and there's more opportunity for the public to be critical of a development. So that was, I think, the reasoning for that appropriateness.
Mr. Carlisle, anything? The only thing I would just say is that, as Mr. Savin always tells us, he doesn't have a vote, and Ms. Dufresne doesn't have a vote as well. So she's our attorney. You can take her advice or leave it. I'm sure the other two attorneys on the commission have had clients who have ignored their advice, so it wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, and I have said that before.
Yes.
You wouldn't be the first attorney,
Yes.
it's the first clients not to heed my advice.
All right. Well, with that, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and we are adjourned.